Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. Just a few minutes ago, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a press conference with visiting Tunisian counterpart Kais Saied here in Egypt, where Kais Saied, or the Tunisian president, is visiting Egypt for the first time upon an invitation of President al-Sisi. During their press conference, President Sisi has asserted that this visit and their discussion has reflected a bilateral will to boost relations in all fields between Egypt and Tunisia, and they spoke about a number of important files, regional and international, plus continental, of course. The two leaders have spoken widely about several Arab and African files during these discussions. We'll be speaking about that in our episode. Definitely the importance, or the high importance, or Egypt is hailing the role Tunisia is doing, as it is the Arab member, or the non-permanent Arab member in the United Nations Security Council. We'll be speaking about that and more in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a telephone call with Jordanian King Abdullah II, during which he reiterated Egypt's full support for Jordanian government and people. Presidential spokesman Bassam Rodi said that during the phone call, the head of state expressed full support for the latest decisions taken by King Abdullah II, which aim at maintaining the stability and security of the kingdom. Head of Libya's Presidential Council, Mohammed al-Menfi, reiterated commitment to hold elections as scheduled in December. This came during his meeting with European Council President Charles Michel in Tripoli. During the meeting, Michel offered support to Libya as the nation seeks to end a decade of chaos. Michel said after the meeting with interim Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dibeiba that the bloc would work with a new government and support it. Michel called on mercenaries in the country to leave. Some 20,000 mercenaries and foreign fighters remained in Libya in early December, according to the United Nations. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi on Tuesday urged the Libyan government to ensure that the country's ceasefire is maintained and strictly observed. In comments to the press, alongside Libya's interim Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dibeiba, Draghi said that the two leaders had spoken about immigration and economic cooperation between the two countries with strong historic ties. It is Draghi's first foreign trip since he took office in February. He said that for Libya to be able to proceed with courage and decisiveness, it is a prerequisite that the ceasefire must continue and be strictly observed. Saudi authorities said on Monday that only people immunized against COVID-19 will be allowed to perform the year-round Umrah pilgrimage from the start of Ramadan, the holy fasting month for Muslims. The Hajj and Umrah ministry said in a statement that three categories of people would be considered immunized: those who have received 2 doses of the vaccine, those administered a single dose at least 14 days prior, and people who have recovered from the infection. Only those people would be eligible for permits to perform Umrah, as well as to attend prayers in the Grand Mosque in the holy city of Mecca. The policy would effectively raise the operational capacity of the Grand Mosque during Ramadan. The ministry said that the policy starts with Ramadan, but it was unclear how long it would last. Israel attacked targets near Damascus on Thursday, and Syria's air defenses shot down a number of rockets over southern districts of the capital. The attacks wounded 4 soldiers and caused material damage. Damascus residents reported hearing at least 1 explosion. The rockets were fired from the direction of neighboring Lebanon and the Israeli-occupied Golden Heights. The strikes near the capital destroyed weapons depot, likely used by the Lebanese Hezbollah militia, among other Iranian-backed groups.
Right, welcome back. And speaking about the first visit by the Tunisian president, Qais Said, since he assumed office to Egypt upon an invitation by President Fattah al-Sisi, I guess we have with us over the phone to shed light on the issue, Ambassador Mohammed Shazly. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Right, so as I said, that this is the first visit by the Tunisian president since he assumed office upon an invitation by President Fattah al-Sisi, and they just held a press conference. I guess we all followed this press conference. Let me take your reading to this visit and its significance at this particular time.
I'm always optimistic with the gathering of Arab leaders at a very important juncture of our history. The challenges and the threats that we are, all of us, facing in the Arab world are monumental, and we need to close ranks together in order to be able to meet these challenges. In the case of Egypt and Tunisia, we have a very troubled spot in between us, that is Libya, which could cause instability for the whole of North Africa and for the whole of the Mediterranean basin, indeed. We have to meet this. We have to meet the challenge of the illegal immigration from the northern shores of Africa to Europe. We have to face the threat of terrorism. We have to face the instability that some circles are trying to cause over the gas fields in the eastern Mediterranean. All of these, are very, very important challenges that we have to close ranks together, and we have to face them together in order that we will prevail and succeed in the end.
Ambassador Shazly, let me here speak about Tunisia as or this invitation that President Sisi has made for the Tunisian counterpart, and we're speaking here about Tunisia itself as the non-permanent Arab member to the UN Security Council. And we're speaking about a number of issues, but at top of them is boosting the Arab common action. How important is such an important a file, and how important is the role of Tunisia at this very particular time, at this position?
Of course, that Tunisia is holding a non-permanent chair in the Security Council, gives it certain weight at this juncture of time. But I don't, put much emphasis on that, because this is something that is going to last for 2 years, and that is all. It will speak on behalf of the Arabs in the Security Council, and of course this is something important, but taking into consideration that you cannot speak for the Arabs if the Arabs have a disunited voice and a disunited...
This is why I was speaking about a certain point. Boosting
yes.
an Arab common action, a united
Indeed.
stance towards the Arab files at this very particular moment that we are passing by. So this is why I was speaking. Why is the role of Tunisia is very crucial at this very significant or very particular time?
I think also that, the Tunisia is one of the countries of the Arab Spring, that they had together with Egypt disturbances that created great instability. And both of us have been after, what has happened, we have been trying to stabilize and trying to ostracize the extremist forces in the arena. And I think Tunisia is playing is in a very critical position, because the balance of power there has not been, determined as it has been in Egypt. It needs, the support of its brotherly countries. It needs stability. Tunisia is one of the countries that has had a very important economic achievement, and also in its political, the outlook of the Tunisian people towards women, towards religion, has always been very balanced, and it could form an example, and that has to be, supported by countries that are seeking stability and seeking economic progress and economic growth. Tunisia is also a country like Egypt that depends heavily on tourism, and it has a very big stake in stability and peaceful existence, in order to be able to play its role as a major touristic country.
When we speak about the discussions of President Sisi and President Qais today, we see that the discussions went on three important axes: the bilateral one, the regional one, and the continental one. So if we speak about the bilateral relations, and how can we describe them, and how to boost such relations to another arena or open horizons of cooperation between both countries?
Let me tell you something. Bilateral relations, we have on the cultural level strong relations with Tunisia. Tunisia has provided the Arab world with some of the leading poets and leading persons of arts and letters and literature. The other very important axis is trade. And let me tell you that trade, I have said this and I have repeated this very many times, that trade needs an infrastructure. You cannot have trade without having a railroad connecting the countries. We don't have rail connections with any of the North African countries. We don't have even road connections that foments trade. We don't have maritime shipping lines between the countries. If we are serious in building bilateral relations, we must build.
Of course we are serious, Ambassador Shazly. Of course we are serious. Definitely we are.
Indeed,
but what we are speaking about now is, or what you're speaking about now is opening highways and roads and links between both countries to facilitate movements, right?
Indeed.
Infrastructure.
Indeed.
But if we are speaking on that, definitely would need the security and stability of the region in order to be able to pass through all this. From your point of view, this was part also of the discussion. So how important is that, and how important is to coordinate between Egypt and Tunisia in order to reach the security and stability of the region, in order to be able to make the infrastructure that we can move through in an easy way?
As also I have said many times, and many people have said that, you cannot have development without stability. The greatest threat to stability at the moment is terrorism. I think, terrorism needs a cultural front. We have to culturally speak to our younger generations, to our men and women, to enlighten their minds, to show them that extremism is self-defeating, that we will never achieve our goals of stability and prosperity if we follow the path of extremism. If we succeed on the cultural front, I think this is going to be a very important step in the right way. And also, being realistic, there is the security aspect of combating extremism and terrorism. And I think the most important aspect of it is intelligence, which puts us a step in front of the terrorists so that we can abort all their mischief and we can abort all their efforts to destabilize.
Right. Ambassador Mohammed Shazli, former Assistant Foreign Minister, we thank you so much for being with us over the phone and for highlighting the issue. Now we move to another Arab common action both presidents spoke about, which is the Palestinian cause. And in mentioning that, we have to speak about an important development that occurred. The United States has retreated from an action of the previous administration, and it said it will again fund the UNRWA, and said that the two-state solution was the only way towards a reasonable and comprehensive agreement that would lead to the fulfilling of the aspiration of both countries. Before we move on with our discussion into the Tunisian meeting, let's first have this report on this development and we'll come back.
Egypt welcomed the American administration's decision to resume economic, humanitarian and development aid to the Palestinian Authority, including aid to the UNRWA. In a statement, Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Hafiz said that the decision has contributed to relieving the suffering of Palestinians and has provided financial aid to face unprecedented economic challenges there. He praised American President Joe Biden's interest in the crucial issues of the Middle East region. Earlier, American Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the U.S. assistance to the Palestinians served important American interests and values as a means to advance towards a negotiated two-state solution. The cash-strapped UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, on Thursday praised President Joe Biden for resuming U.S. financial support, saying it came at a critical moment amid the COVID pandemic. The Biden administration's decision to restore U.S. aid to the Palestinians to tune of $235 million American marked a sharp break from the policy of his predecessor Donald Trump, who severed all financial assistance. Its decision to earmark $150 million of that for the UNRWA drew particular anger from Israel. The new U.S. aid pledge is still well below the $355 million American contributed to UNRWA in 2016 by the United States. Then it is the largest contributor. The State Department spokesman did not rule out further U.S. contributions, but said that the United States was encouraging other donors to do more. In another development, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel will tell the International Criminal Court it does not recognize the authority of the tribunal, which is planning to investigate possible war crimes in the Palestinian territories. Netanyahu, after meeting with senior ministers and government officials ahead of a Friday deadline to respond to an ICC notification letter, said that Israel would not cooperate with the inquiry, but it will send a response. The Palestinians say that they would cooperate with the ICC, whose inquiry pertains to alleged war crimes in the Israeli-occupied West Bank and in the Gaza Strip, where Palestinian Hamas took control after Israel withdrew in 2005.
Right, welcome back, and continuing on with our discussion to this very important visit by the Tunisian president, the first of its kind since President Qais Said assumed office. We have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi. Good afternoon to you, sir. Hello?
Good afternoon.
And we're speaking about this.
Hello, yes. Good afternoon.
Yes. Can you please lower just the voice of the telephone so a little bit? If we
Yes, I always have trouble with your phone. Let me try.
I'll try to raise my voice as much as possible.
No, here I hear you. It's not a matter of strong voice. It is
okay.
Some interruption in the phone. Okay.
Right. So we're speaking here about a very important visit by the Tunisian president, the visit of the Tunisian president to Egypt upon an invitation by President Sisi. We're speaking about the timing, the significance of the timing, the significance of the role Tunisia is playing at this very particular moment when it is the Arab representative or the Arab non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. And we're speaking about important files that were raised today. Let me take it here from the challenges facing both countries at this very particular time.
I take it as opportunities more than challenges. Of course, we can face any challenges we are supposed to face. But the opportunities are very, very important also. Both of us are members in the Arab League, where Egypt established this regional organization in the 40s. Tunisia and the whole Maghreb countries reached the Arab League in the 70s. We helped them for their struggle for independence and for their culture challenge, because if you go to Tunisia, you will find that still some people would prefer to talk in French. This is a good part of our relations that we want to establish again and again, the Arab and the Arabic culture in the Maghreb. This is one side of our files. But here, as President Sisi well described, of course, they were talking about the Palestinian question, which is in a very important time in order to make the balance between the Israelis and the Palestinians in their negotiations to bring peace again in the region. And Egypt is one country which has very good relation with every part of this problem, where we can give advices here and there. They mentioned the Libyan developments, because Libya is neighbor to the west of Egypt and to the east of Tunisia. Very important file also. And I hope that we can help Libya from Tunisia and from Egypt in order to maintain peace and the Libyan unity in their own country. Also, one very important file, we are committed, both of us, Egypt and Tunisia, to the international level and the regional level with the Arabs, with the Europeans and with Africa to combat organized crime, which we mean here terrorism, we mean illegal migration, we mean drug trafficking and money laundering. A very important coordination there is necessary, especially that we know that the European Union is happy with what Egypt is doing in this file, especially for the illegal migration. Tunisia is suffering to be a sort of a bridge for some illegal migrants jumping to Europe. Also, we have to combat terrorism, coming from Syria because 20,000 terrorists were sent to Libya, and they are a big threat to Egypt and big threat to Tunisia also. You cannot control them unless the whole world can help you. If we come to the economic file, it is very important also because both of the countries are member in several free trade areas. The Arab free trade area, the African large free trade area, also the Euro-Mediterranean free trade area, and because of this European cooperation, we established what we call the declaration between the Agadir countries. It is Jordan, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco. We hope to bring to this gathering also the rest of the Arab world, of the Mediterranean Arab countries. It means that the barriers between Egypt and Tunisia are dismantling, and we don't have custom duties, we don't have any obstacle for trade to go and come back between the two countries. But still we have to develop this very important file to create more jobs, more opportunities, more trade, more investment. It needs a huge efforts in order to produce what we need, because of course the main partner to Egypt and to Tunisia is not the Arabs, it's the European Union, and it's the main source for what we need of our imports.
Yes.
This has to be ameliorated, and we have to produce what we need, especially in the field of machine production, the transport production, and the food security. The whole Arab world is facing this problem of lack of production of food. We have to be much more effective there. So many files are there, and we hope that such a meeting shall be repeated on the ministerial level, also on the technical level, in order to pave the way for more and more cooperation.
Yes, we're speaking here about high committees that always initiate or are being established after every presidential meeting with a counterpart, Arab or African or foreign. But when we return back, yes, the economic file is very, very crucial at this very particular time for both countries, since both economies need to work out on their own economies. But when we get back to also the political file, because we're speaking here about a very important political files that were on the agenda of talks. Maybe a part of them, yes, were the Palestinian cause, the Libyan cause, but also the negative foreign interference in the domestic affairs. And how important is that file, since we are speaking about a country that is representing the Arab world in the UN Security Council?
It is a very good opportunity. It was there also during 2019, 2020. And voila, Tunis also is representing us, and it's very important to exchange views in order to make Tunisia much more aware of our important issues, and to really represent the Arab world, even the African, because the seat is for the Africa in general and the Arab world.
Yes. But
so
I'm speaking here.
We need to consult there in order to make all the questions in any case quite clear.
I'm speaking particularly about the negative foreign interference, because this was one of the issues that were raised on their talks today, both President Sisi and President Qais. And how important is coordination and consultation in such a domain?
You are absolutely right. It's very important, of course. And I think our president was very clear, and is still very clear, by putting red tape about those who are interfering in Libya and trying to threat our borders. This will not be allowed at all, whether in the Libyan border or in the East Mediterranean countries where we establish the gas forum, which will have Cairo hosting its siege. This is very important, and consultation here, especially to make our position quite clear to the international community and the Security Council. We do not accept what was going on. I think there is a little bit good steps here and there concerning this file, because we declared our very strong position concerning the gas in the East Mediterranean. Egypt will host, of course, this sort of activity. Egypt will be the center for trade, for energy in general, whether it is gas, oil, or electricity. Here, another file that we are connecting our electric net between Egypt to Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and to the other side, of course, up till Baghdad in Iraq, in order to sell the surplus of our energy to Europe. And we now in the middle of establishing a sort of a cable which will connect the electric net in Egypt to Greece and Europe, of course. We are connecting Egypt with Sudan, with Congo, with Tanzania, and hopefully, inshallah, with Ethiopia. So this is something very large in the area of the trade and services in our area.
Yes. Here you pinpointed your finger on a very important issue, the third axis that both presidents spoke about, which is the continental relations and how to unify the African stance in order to be able to meet the challenges facing the continent. How important is such an action? As we need an Arab common action, we also need an African common action. How is that very crucial? How do you think that we need to work on that in this upcoming stage?
Very important, because as you well know, the Arab world is not in its best health. We have problems in north of Iraq and north of Syria. Syria is occupied by Turkish soldiers, and terrorist forces are there. Lebanon is not in good health. Libya, I hope it's on its way to stabilization. Somalia and Yemen, all of these countries are not in good health. That's why the Arab world need all their alliances, whether in Europe, in Africa, in the United States, in the NATO. And thank God that our cause is very clear, very fair, and many of our international community world is supporting our stand there. And I think those who are threatening our security in the East Mediterranean are aware that no joke about this, and the whole world is behind us there.
Yes, but I'm also speaking about a joint African action. As we need an Arab joint action, we need an African joint action in order to meet the African challenge. So how important also is unifying the African stance towards confronting the challenges facing the continent?
Africa is very important, and as I always say, we are lucky that Africa is supporting Egypt, and we are the most acceptable face in Africa. The proof for that, take the voting in the United Nations. When we went to the United Nations concerning the Jerusalem problem, we had 49 African countries voting with us. 150 countries voted with us. It gives you a good example that
Yes.
we are highly supported from Africa and from others.
Yes.
Because the cause is quite clear, and I always say that those who take different position from Egypt, they felt sorry after 50 years and they come towards us. Now I think we are living the best foreign policy of Egypt, especially that it is supported by the ministerial level and up till the leadership
Yes,
level.
indeed.
Our president really is very active. He went everywhere from Tokyo to the east, to Paris, and New York to the west. So we are in very good connection with the whole world, and voila, here is a good visit, which I hope it will continue with other
Yes.
countries also.
Right. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, we thank you so much for being with us over the phone
Thank
and
you.
for your input. Thank you so much. And I guess that brings us to the end of this episode of our program, Arab Affairs. Next week would be another important files. Until next week, it's goodbye.